All right, dude. Thank you.
Peace. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Hey, loving the black shirt, loving the black ring. I mean,
Johnny
we're like
Cash.
twins, man. I should have worn a flat brim hat and we would have been like brothers. Hey, I'm Michael Janda. I'm here with Steve Mellor, who is UX Steven on Instagram. So, Steve, why don't you give us your first thoughts on this topic to kick us off?
So I think it's something everybody experiences, right? At first you start out, you get going, you get, a week or two worth of content, and then you start struggling for ideas. I know myself, I try to pull stuff together and I find, even just creating carousels, it starts taking longer and longer and longer. And you get a little burnt out with it, right? I think everybody starts going through that right after the early stages.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle change. Once you commit to a platform and you're like, okay, if I'm going to be on Instagram, I've got to post every day on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or I'm not, I might as well not be on Instagram. So you get this motivation to post. I had it really changed for me last summer. So I started posting content in April, and by summer, I wasn't running out of ideas, but sometimes I was like, oh man, how do I make content that's faster for me to make so that I'm not spending a few hours on a post? How do I get something that I can crank out in 30 minutes? What have you done to overcome some of that fatigue that you hit?
So I think one of the bigger things is, you just touched on it, right? Trying to streamline your work. I think templates make a huge, boost for me. Being able to have your templates laid out going in and just sort of laying out your content. Another thing that works really well is I start, writing a lot of my stuff in notes. And even when I'm out at lunch, I'll start jotting down ideas and start building frameworks for carousels or single posts. That way, when I get into the design of it, I already have a lot of my work sort of structured and laid out. That helps speed it up a ton. But I think also trying to make more pillar content, you've heard that term before. So trying to structure these bigger posts and chop them up into, smaller individual posts.
Yes. Okay. So those are great tips. My process is very similar. So I use Notion. I have a page in Notion that is called Post Ideas. And anytime I get a post idea, I go and drop it into that page. And I have a huge list of these things. And then I have different tags in Notion where I say, okay, this one's written, this one's complete. And I organize this page by ones that I'm working on it, it's written, or it's complete, or I haven't even started it. And that helps me so that whenever I have a post idea, I just drop it in there, and then my brain can forget about it. And I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, I don't want to forget that one. It's sitting in Notion for when I need a post idea. And then you mentioned another one that's super great is create long form content and then break it into smaller pieces. So if you create a carousel of 10 slides, is there one piece of that, like one slide or one infographic or something that you can strip out and do that as a post by itself? You post it in a month or 2 months, but it's a piece of content that you had in a carousel that you're stripping out into a one slide post. I just did this with my post that it was the value, what did I call it? The value model. Where
I remember you talking about it.
So, and it was a post that I had in a carousel like 6 months ago, and I pulled it out as a single slide post, and it did really well. It got picked up on hashtags and got circulated, but it was just one post, a one slide post. So I think don't be afraid to mix up your content and use a variety of different posts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even down to if it's just a photo, man, don't be afraid to just post a photo of yourself and say, hey, this is who I am, a little introduction post. I did that a lot at the start. About every 10,000 followers, I would post another one of those.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. just so people could get to know me. And it takes me 10 minutes to write the post, and it's a photo of me. So what are your thoughts on some things like that, Steve?
So I think that's great. I think doing those reintroduction posts are huge, because as you grow over time, you're going to get this whole influx of new followers that don't know you, and maybe they have to scroll 30 or 40 posts back just to even find that one. A good thing to highlight there too is story highlights. Making an about me, or how I got started, and burying all your story highlights in there to try to tell that story, so it's sort of top of feed, top of page. Right in front of everybody's eyes. So I think that one's huge too. Yeah.
So you're saying story highlights, like using stories?
Yep. So you use stories in a way to obviously tell stories, but you can do it to explain a lot of the background stuff on you and how you came up, and sort of tell your journey as how you move through and where you are now, right? And it's a nice piece to sort of keep top of mind on everything. When somebody goes to your profile, they're obviously scanning, how good and how curated your content is, but they also tap on those story highlights to find more about you, or, what products you have or what services you offer.
Now, Steve, I'm going to just kick off with this one, because I did a content collab with Diana Gets Social, Diana Briseno. And we talked about stories, and she does so great in her UX, or in her UX. She does so great in her stories, and it was inspiring to me, because my stories sucked. And so I thought, I got to improve my stories. So I started sharing a lot more behind the scenes kind of stuff. I'm playing video games with my 8-year-old. I'm going skiing with my 18-year-old. Here's a shot of my studio space. Here's something I'm working on. Those kinds of things. And I've been really pleased with the positive response that I've gotten, that people want to have a deeper connection. They want to see behind the scenes. And that's how I've been using stories lately. And I've really enjoyed the deeper connection that I've created with a lot of my followers as a result. What are your thoughts on how to effectively use stories?
So I think you're hitting the nail on the head right there, right? You want to use those stories to share a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, to share the personal stuff, the stuff that's not 100% curated on your feed. And it allows people to get to know the person. And that's really why they're following you, is to follow your journey and to be attached to you. So you use those stories to sort of tell people that side of you, right? Another thing too is using those for sales, because you can chain a bunch of those together and, get people to keep tapping through and paying attention to your content rather than just skipping it, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so some people are sitting there thinking, but I'm not interesting. There's nothing interesting about me. That's what they're thinking. So the rebuttal to that is that you are not interesting to yourself, but you are going to be interesting to a whole lot of other people. So I have a lot of friends in Australia right now where it's summer, and it is a hot summer. And yesterday I took my 18-year-old skiing, and we're snow skiing, and I'm posting videos of that. And I'm sure for the people in Australia, it's fascinating because they're in the middle of summer right now. So this is a global community. So don't just assume that what you're doing in your life is not interesting to other people. I love seeing people's stories when they post from their country and they post the streets, and it's snowing in Warsaw, Poland yesterday, and then it melted in the afternoon. These little things that you think are just the stupidest, meaningless things, they were impactful to me and interesting in my life yesterday, you know?
Same way with me. I mean, I think 2 weeks ago in New England, it was 73 degrees out. No snow on the ground. We walked outside this past weekend and it was 14. So you go from, a 60-degree swing and, we're outside in shorts and my son's driving his car around to we got to shovel the driveway again. It's very interesting to see how, the dynamics change, right?
Yeah. So share your life. share what's going on. There was somebody in my network who posted he was in Africa and he did a little selfie video, and it was the first one he had ever done. And there were like chickens in the background that I could hear and stuff. And man, I just wanted him to walk out of the room and go walk down the street, because I was like, please show me what it's like where you live, because it's so different from where I live. And I'm so interested in it because it's different. So don't be afraid to share it.
It allows you to pick up that other part, essentially virtually travel. And sort of soak in what they're doing, right? Yeah. That stuff is so fascinating to me, too. Yeah. And I think a lot of people pick up on that. They don't want to just, see the curated posts over and over and over again. They want, some more depth and to get to know you. Yeah, exactly. It's the deeper connection. If you go down the mindset of, okay, it's better to have 1,000 true fans than 1 million people who don't care about you. This is a big message inside of social media and in business. And I love that concept, but you're never going to create 1,000 true fans if you don't open up and show who you really are. So don't be afraid to get on video. Don't be afraid to show what your life is really like. Don't be afraid to open up, because it's going to create this loyal connection between you and your audience. I actually had a friend DM me yesterday talking specifically about this. It's funny we mention it and bring it up. But, she has done a TED Talk before, and she was like, whoa, your content is so good. It's so highly curated, but I don't even know anything about you. There's nothing there, behind the surface of those posts. She's like, you have to start sharing, some of this behind the scenes stuff and make it not so super production value. Just record it with an iPhone and just make a time every week to go live and connect with your followers too. Yeah. I thought that was super valuable. Super valuable.
So you got to start doing more, because I don't know enough about you other than your great content. So it's the same thing. And I know that that's something that you're starting now in your Instagram content, but
it's tough too, right? Because I do a startup nowadays. So the 9 to 5 is a startup. So I'm trying to balance, dedicating full time and not seeming like I'm dumping a ton of time into this. But I'm trying to burning the candle at both ends, if you will, right? So I think everything we do on Instagram or in social should have a purpose, right? Or let me put it this way: you either have a purpose with it, or it's just a hobby and you just like to post personal photos, which is fine. But if you're going to use it to try to grow a company's page, grow your own page, or monetize it at some point, you should be treating everything like a business and structure all of your content and posts and really have a strategy to how you're going to move through this social media world. Everything from posts to going live, to Instagram stories, to your story highlights, to your bio, that should all be in a particular method to get people from just viewers into paying customers. Yeah.
Good. I love that. Okay. So business is all about metrics. Yeah. Any successful business is running it based on the numbers. You've got to know your numbers. I own a lot of stocks, and quarterly earnings come out, and the type of thing that they talk about in quarterly earnings is, Google posted a growth of 1.73% in their whatever facet of their business. They're going down to the 100th decimal point on some of these things. And so big businesses operate with minute details of their numbers. And we need to be the same in our business, in any facet of our business. So if you're talking about Instagram as a marketing vehicle, let's look at the return that you're getting on Instagram. How successful was this post, and how did it correlate to finding clients, if that's your objective? What's the correlation, so that you can see that it's actually functioning for you? So you got to start by tracking the data on your posts and the results of those posts. So what data do you recommend people track?
Everything. No, so I'm a huge data guy.
It's true, but yeah.
Right. I'm a huge data guy as well as a visual guy, right? But a lot of my posts, I made a spreadsheet, titled everything, and brought all, profile visits. You just hit the Insight tab and pull all those metrics, put them into a spreadsheet and start tracking them over time. You don't necessarily have to do every single post. I do. I just go crazy with it, but it's nice to see sort of the growth and the patterns and what content hits. Maybe there was an algorithm change and, carousels don't rank as well anymore, or you start seeing trends. And once you start diving into the data, it reveals so much more of how you can shift your thinking and your content production to match, what your audience wants to see and what what Instagram wants you to post, right?
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so the answer is track everything, number one. Yep. I did this for years at my agency. I started tracking, it was like 60 things that I tracked on a monthly basis at my agency. So much data, and it starts to tell a story over time. Yep. So I tracked that. I tracked a ton of content or a ton of data points in my agency. In Instagram, here's an interesting thing, and I can't remember. I was on a collaboration video like this, and I can't remember who shared it with me, but I'll share it here. The reverse order, we usually read, in Western society, we read left to right. And so if you look at the Instagram metrics, you have likes, then comments, then shares, then saves. And then if you look up in the top right, you have your direct messages. So if you look at that flow, the important data, the most valuable data for your business is the opposite of the normal flow. So you could look at it and say, my DMs in the top right is number one, then drop down, saves is the next, shares is the next, comments is the next, and then likes is the next, as far as value to your business. So I loved when somebody pointed that out to me, that, we get so caught up in likes, but man, the DMs are way more valuable to your business than the likes. The DMs is where you're building true relationships, and the true people who will convert to clients or buy your product or whatever, they're in your DMs. They're not in just your random like clicks. So I love that. We look at it left to right, look at it right to left, and see the difference in value.
I love that point. And you're absolutely right. The networking effects in the DMs and how many connections that opens up is insane. It's social, it's global, but if you actually make authentic engagement and connect with these people in a meaningful way, not just asking them to repost your content, but actually offering value, they're going to see that and they're going to recognize that and they're going to respond to you, and you're going to start creating that relationship, which is, critical.
So Steve, here, you're an Instagram expert, and I've been doing this for the last year, and we both share some Instagram growth content and stuff. I was growing at 500 or 600 new followers per day for most of last year, from April 1 until late December. And then on like January 1, all of a sudden I was posting the same content. It was good content, valuable content that would have done really well, but I wasn't getting any reach, comparatively speaking. And I looked at it and I was like, something has changed with the algorithm, that my posts aren't tracking the way that they were. And I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just power through it. It's probably just me. There's something, I hit 100,000 followers and now the algorithm changed for me. But it does.
It hates you.
But then I had two other people with over 20,000 follower accounts reach out to me and say that they saw a dramatic change in growth also. One was getting 200 followers a day and now got like 13. Another one dropped from like 500 or 600 a day down to 100 something a day. And so no question there was an algorithm change that happened. Did you see a change in your account around that same time?
I did. I see changes all the time, though. It's I don't know where to go with this because there's so many different levels to this. But we'll try to keep it on the surface level for a little bit. So I think algorithm changes are real easy to notice when you start seeing new people on your feed. People that you haven't connected with or talked to in a while, you'll start seeing their stories or their content pop up more. So that's one of the quick indicators you can start seeing is like you haven't connected or looked at this person's profile, but all of a sudden they're top of feed. So just keep mind of that. But I was on the creators account, Instagram creators account, and they were answering questions about how often algorithm changes. And they said they actually use machine learning, and it's sort of ever evolving. So it doesn't mean there's a specific change at a specific point for people or for everybody. It's more or less individualized based on your habits and sort of what you're posting and what you're doing and how you're using Instagram itself. So I thought that was fascinating. And it's been throwing me in a loop, to be honest with you, because I will feel like I'm getting in the groove with content and start growing, and all of a sudden my profile visits will fall off a shelf. Like I went from 15,000 profile visits down to about 7,000 this week. No idea why, but it's just sort of maddening to try to figure that out.
All right, so you hit on a couple things that resonate with me. My reach has not really changed since I had 50,000 followers. I have 110 right now. But my reach, it's like there's some law in the algorithm that says when More Janda's post gets 38,000 in reach, stop showing it to people. When More Janda's post gets 200 comments, stop showing it to people. There's some kind of a algorithm thing that happens as a result of that. And I mean, I can show you so many posts and I know what it's going to do. I know how it's going to perform because all my posts perform the same. And then every once in a while, you'll get one that like breaks through the algorithm for who knows what reason. A hashtag gets picked up. It just got enough shares by one in the start that all of a sudden it starts dropping into hashtag searches and things and it gets circulated and then those posts explode. But we're talking about one out of maybe 10 or 15 posts that actually kind of breaks through. And I can't tell you which one is going to be. Sometimes I think, oh, this post is going to kill it. And then it doesn't do that great. And then other times I'm like, should I even post this or not? And then it'll have like 7,000 likes on it. And I can't pinpoint why or what's happening. So you answered it already. It's machine learning. There's robots making these decisions for whatever reason. What advice do you have for people that are feeling this in their business, in their Instagram efforts?
That's a good question. I think the first thing is to sort of step back and make sure, your content is still top notch because like we talked about before, content fatigue, if you, start getting into a lull and are struggling, maybe that is contributing to some of this, but that aside, start looking at the feed to see if you start seeing different people, in your feed that you haven't seen before. Look at your metrics and try to pinpoint, is it reach, is it comments, am I not responding enough, is there stuff that you can do to improve it, or maybe it's just telling you that you need to switch up your content a little bit and try different posts, because if it realizes you're posting only carousels with the same hashtags and you're not really engaging, it might limit you to sort of like a stale content creator, right? I don't know, just a few tips and tricks to try, I guess.
I like that one. That's one that I embrace, is content variety. I know that my video posts are not going to get as many comments and as many likes as my carousel posts, but they serve a different purpose. They serve the purpose of creating a little bit longer form content. They serve the purpose of having a collaboration conversation like this with people like you that can add new value to people in my audience. They serve the purpose of making me more human in the eyes of my audience, making me more accessible. And so
more relatable.
So they're serving a purpose, and it's not likes and profile views and new followers, but they are serving the purpose for which I'm sharing them. And so we have to kind of do that, step back and say, what am I actually even trying to accomplish here? And if you're trying to accomplish something, then who cares about the stupid algorithm? Share your content, find your core audience, and go all in on serving them, and don't worry about what the algorithm shows or shares or whatever. Just share the content that you feel is going to be valuable for your target customer, and don't worry about the algorithm. Power through it, share your stuff, and let the algorithm do whatever it's going to do.
Exactly. And like we talked about before too, if you're treating it like a business, you have to do those PR events. You have to do those private dinners and private parties. You also have to do those one-on-one calls, and you have to send those emails, right? You have to do everything for your business, not just constantly try to draw in new customers and not take care of the old ones, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Super good. So let me start this one by just sharing a little story. I was messaging with somebody and they had, this is a good friend of mine in Instagram friend world. And, all my Instagram friends are real friends too. So real friend, but she messaged me and had like 170 followers, and she only got 18 followers last week. It was some kind of number like that. And she was like, I'm not growing very fast. And I helped her in our DM realize that 18 new followers on 170 total followers is 10% growth, just over 10% growth in 1 week. Now, if my account grew at 10% in 1 week, I would go from 100,000 followers to 110,000 followers. So her growth percentage was actually greater than my growth percentage. So when you're comparing your numbers in Instagram growth, make sure you're putting it through the right lens. Yes, you only got 12 new followers on your account of 120 people, but that's 10% growth. Yes, you only got 25 new followers on your account of 500 people, but isn't that 5% growth? So look at the growth percentage, not necessarily the total number. What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
I think that's phenomenal. It shows you that, it's not just that vanity metric of, I got, 100 followers or 500 followers, this week or this day. Taking that percentage and understanding that, it's relative to, your following size right now. And, that's going to grow over time. This is a point too I wanted to hit on is when you first start out and start doing this, it's really tough to gain critical mass. And, as long as you stay at it and start cultivating, your feed and those followers and engaging, you're going to hit critical mass pretty soon too. Okay. What were
the critical mass points that you hit? Where are you right now? Do you have like 50,000 followers or something?
Yeah, I think I'm at 51 and change.
Where did you see kind of your tipping points, your break points, and then I'll share mine.
So when I first started this, it was back in late April 2019, and I actually hit a good ride and a good wave up until about July, and then I got shadow banned for some odd reason.
Oh, you did?
I think I had a graphic. I had a graphic in there that appeared like a gun, I guess, and I got a kickback from Instagram saying that I was promoting violence and hate and all this stuff. So I literally stalled out from end of June all the way through August, and I picked it back up. But I hit my critical growth point around beginning of November. When I started, planning my content more and really structuring everything out and being consistent with DMs, comments, and a regular posting schedule. Okay, so what was your follower count when you feel like you hit that? Okay, now things are accelerating. So September, or beginning of October, I guess I was at 10,000. By Thanksgiving, I was at 25. And then it just took off like a rocket. I think I had 14,000 in December and another 15,000 or 13,000 in January alone.
Yeah, that's killer.
So I've grown almost 25 or 30 in 2 months.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that's great history on your account. I saw critical mass hit when I hit like 5,000 followers. I had a spike that happened. I went from 5,000 to 10,000 really fast. 10,000 to 20,000 went really fast. Mm-hmm. But it takes a while to get that first 5,000, man. You'll grind for months or years, some people, trying to get that 5,000. And then you hit that tipping point and all of a sudden things start to accelerate. It's probably different for everybody, but growth accelerates exponentially over time. And you have to get that critical mass in place, and then things start to accelerate faster.
Yep. I remember I was following you and UX Bytes around the same time I started my account. I think when I started following you, you had 8,000. And then I just saw you, take off to the races with, gaining 10,000 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, and it ran like that until the algorithm punished me for hitting a certain number.
Being too cool.
Yeah, it's something. But you know what? You have to sit back and you have to say, I don't care. I'm going to engage with my community. Whoever sees it that's my community. And I do truly care about the people who I have a real, deep, genuine relationship with. Those are the people that make a huge difference in my life. And I have made a lot of those in the course of this experience. Okay, so talking critical mass, we're talking about global follower count. We both have big accounts, 50,000, 100,000 followers. It's the follower count is great, but honestly, the thing that is the most valuable are these deeper one-on-one relationships. It's people like you, Steve. We've interacted a ton over the last several months. We've never been on a call like this, but it wasn't like we jumped on the call and felt like we've never met each other. We've been following each other's accounts for so long. We've joked around and had fun, and it's those kinds of relationships that are everything in social media. So focus on what's the most valuable. That's the advice 100%. For anybody. Yeah.
And a lot of my best relationships and even job opportunities have spawned directly through social and building those connections, through going back and forth through DMs over months, right?
Yeah.
Somebody has, a business or something they need help with and you help them out. They'll return their favor for you, and that might spark a connection to, go off into a different venture or be recommended, right?
Yep.
So yeah, definitely take care of your followers and, make sure you put some time, energy, and effort into the DMs and the comments instead of just, worrying about the likes.
So, Steve, we were just chatting about hashtags. Tell me your story again on your hashtag challenge.
So hashtags, love them or hate them, but I've been using them in my carousels and my single posts, and I actually haven't hit on a single hashtag for carousels in about 6 months, right? Until a week ago. One of my carousels actually took off and started gaining traction on hashtags. Again, I have no idea why. I would use those same hashtags for single posts or video, for example, and they would work really well. I'd put them in a carousel and I'd get 0. No idea why. And then all of a sudden, a week or so ago, it just clicked.
Yeah. Okay, so hashtags, what I've seen is that hashtags are not a guarantee of hashtag circulation. So you can use all the greatest hashtags in all the world. It doesn't mean that Instagram's algorithm is going to pick up your post and actually feed it into the search of that hashtag. There's no guarantee for post distribution beyond 5% of your current audience. That's Instagram's organic reach, that you're going to hit 5% of the people that follow you. If you have 100 followers, 5 of them will probably see every single post. It won't always be the same 5, but you get 5% reach. Now, hashtags you use to try and get into the searches on hashtags, but you might have great hashtags, and for some reason Instagram isn't going to drop it into the hashtag search for whatever reason.
And I think too, what's maddening for me is you get people taking your content, right? They just rip your content or they repost it.
Yeah.
I'll go and check a hashtag and I might be 9th or 10th in top, and they just reposted it with less likes, less time, and they're above me on the same hashtags. I'm like, so now are they stealing all my thunder for that post? It's frustrating, I guess, but you can't really hack the hashtags.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the secret? Stop caring. Put in your stupid hashtags, make sure they're good, be smart about it. But man, you cannot control what the algorithm does. So put in good hashtags, post at the optimal time per day, reply to every comment, reply to your DMs, and then just accept whatever the Instagram fairy delivers to you, because you have no idea what it's going to be.
I love that. That's so spot on.
Yeah. You just got to do all you can do, and you have no control over that. So let's stop getting frustrated about it.
So I think anybody with a decent following, they get inundated with messages, right? And it's extremely time consuming to leave authentic replies to them rather than just, rifling through every single message and just hearting it, right? I don't like that method because it feels inauthentic. So I think there needs to be a better system for, how we move people through this and how we provide authentic comments and replies to these messages, because I want to connect with all you guys. I want to connect with everybody and sort of make it social, but I don't like the fact of it being inauthentic and just leaving hearts for everybody and not giving like a valuable engagement, right?
So I try and give valuable engagement. So a couple of hacks that I do: I voice dictate a ton of messages. I like a text message better than a voice message, because the voice message somebody has to listen to, and if you send me a voice message, if it takes me longer to listen to your voice message than your written message, where I can scan through it and see what your point that you're trying to make or question is. So I prefer text-based message. I love a voice message of gratitude and things like that, and I'll send those back to people, but not if it's your question. So I like the authenticity of that.
Right.
So anyway, so how do you manage the DMs? There are multiple different categories. You have the people who have never messaged you before, and they show up in this one bucket of whether you're going to accept their communication or not. And then you have your general category, and then you have your priority people, and then you have people who you can flag as most valuable or important or whatever. And so for me, all the people who are the flagged people, I reply to them. I mean, it's like immediate. If you text me, Steve, you text me and I text back within a few minutes most of the time. And I have a lot of people like that. And then going down in scale, the people who have never messaged me before, a lot of times I'll look at their message earlier in the day, but I won't reply until tomorrow because I'm too busy replying to the priority people that have already built a relationship with me. So depending on where you are in this spectrum of relationship changes the immediacy of reply in the way that I manage it.
Right. And I think if we can go on this for a second, it's looking at it from the other perspective. If the person who wants to leave, you or us or somebody a message, leaving something that has substance. Don't just leave a one-word hi. Those are probably the toughest ones that I want to open, because you don't know, how do you respond to that? How can I help this person? Or is it just going to turn into this longer, dragged on? As soon as you reply, then they're asking you if you can promote their account. And it's like, all right, I get it. But, I want to make these authentic connections. So if I could actually help you out, leave a a structured question or an actual legitimate question that I can get back to you in time.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that. So, and then be respectful. Don't ask something that is going to take a ton of time for somebody to answer. I spend a ton of time. I mean, a couple hours a day I spend in Instagram DMs because I reply to everybody. But be respectful of people's time. Don't ask something like, "Hey, I'm starting freelancing. Do you have any advice for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a ton of advice. I have 8 months or 9 months of content that's all about that." So consume the content that's already available and be respectful. Get direct on a question, and something that can be answered pretty quickly is the most valuable. And you know what? I love a message of gratitude. Man, I love those. When somebody says, "Hey, Mike, I just wanted to reach out to you, tell you how much I appreciate your content. Thank you so much. It's really had a big impact on me." I reply to every one of those with a heartfelt message back that says, "This means everything to me," because I'm doing it 100%. For free. I'm giving so much content for free. I love it when somebody expresses gratitude back. So if you are reaching out to somebody who's a perceived thought leader, has a lot of followers, man, if you feel grateful for what they're sharing, share with them that you feel grateful. It'll mean the world to them. Whether it's me or Gary V with 7 million followers, I'm sure that people like to hear that.
They'll read it, they'll look at it. They may not have time to reply, but it's definitely heartfelt, because I know I see that too. And those are some of the best, comments and actually drive me to create more content, are the ones who reach out and go, "Oh my God, your stuff is so amazing. It really helped me do this, this, and this." Right? Yeah. Those are the ones that mean the most.
Fuel for tomorrow's post is what it becomes.